ready for an oil change, trust the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your car. Right now, get 5 parts of Valvoline full synthetic motor oil and a Wix filter for $33.99. Plus, get a $10 gift card after mail-in rebate and double O-Rewards points. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Auto Parts.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
So I still can't get over how much I saved at Kohl's. I did a double take when I saw my receipt. The home sale deals are just that great. I got 20% off a Keurig coffee maker, 40% off cute throw pillows, and a Bissell carpet cleaner for $249.99. I even got an extra 15% off and picked up Kohl's cash. So yeah, you know the saying home sweet home? More like Kohl's sweet Kohl's. Select styles. 50% offer ends July 25th. Some exclusions apply. See store.Kohl's.com for details.
To lock you into a contract, not Simple Mobile. If you have a great smartphone you love, you can get a powerful nationwide 5G network without the contract. Just text the word BYOP to 611611 to see if your phone's compatible. Simple Mobile. Out with the old, in with the simple. Message and data rates may apply. Visit simplemobile.com/privacy policy for privacy policy and the terms and conditions at simplemobile.com/terms and conditions. Compatible 5G capable devices SIM required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. 5G network not available in all areas. 5G upload speeds not yet available.
Our stories and all that matters to our community. Listen to the Black Information Network now on the iHeartRadio app.
Fellas, sorry I'm a little bit late. Hope I didn't keep you guys. Hello? Anybody there? Hello? Hello? Am I the first or what?
ESPN, serving sports fans everywhere.
You watch sports? We cut hair. It's perfect. Visit Sport Clips today and ask for the relaxing MVP haircut experience. Sport Clips. It's good to be a guy.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys around the country, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. You're listening to Charlton with Big C Sports, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He'll do his thing sometimes from 3,000 miles away, or sometimes he won't. It's all fair and level word. I want to say you can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. It's better to have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Anyone looking to help a veteran or just someone that you know personally, all you got to do is pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You could definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones, even if that loved one is you. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as a home run king, Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping to put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealers do it. You know, a lot of cars are driving around like the movie cars. They do it. Sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. When you need a loan, don't just be sure, be Rocket Sure. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV, Comcast Spotlight, and Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and just say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. Also, I want to say today's show is sponsored by Budweiser Zero. It is 0% alcohol, but 100% on your game. It's all fair and level where it goes great with the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it tastes better in your mouth than it does in your hands, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair and level war. We're doing some things different in the 2021 season for Big C Sports. I'm going to have some special guests coming on out of Northern California in the world of sports and also entertainment. Going to introduce actually a good friend of mine by the name of Zariah Matthews, and she's a casting director for a full featured movie called Piece of My Love, and she's going to be on the show. I'm also going to have Lawrence Thompson. He's going to come in and talk about some things that he's done with some sports players, NBA players in Northern California, and we'll do all that jazz when we come back. We're going to take what's called a quick Big C pause. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout, or maybe the Big C intermission. I'm here with Lawrence Thompson. He works with a lot of NBA basketball players and other entertainers over the years, and he also has a foundation that I wanted to promote at the end of what we do with the interview. But Lawrence, how you doing today, Lawrence?
Fine, how you doing?
Man, I feel blessed. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you have a good affiliation with some sports agents. Also, you work with a couple of athletes that play for NBA teams. Tell us some about some of the people that you've been working with over the years.
Yeah, I work with Jermaine Hill. He was my agent also when I was playing, and we work with some other agents. Ed and those guys, they're out of Texas.
Yeah.
But Jermaine Hill, he's out of the Bay Area. That's where he's from originally. Jermaine Hill.
I had Jermaine Hill on one of our shows that I interviewed him back in the day with a panel of some NBA players, some coaches that are going to be part of the Olympics that are going on in Japan right now, and also some people that were part of the Oakland Raiders. What do you know about Jermaine Hill? I mean, he's actually been doing pretty well in business, but your thoughts?
Yeah, Jay. Yeah, Actually, I introduced one of the guys that he was representing at one time, Henry Turner, that played with the Kings.
Okay.
Back in the day, also, and then like I said, I've worked with these guys over the years, and then the last person I worked with was Ruthie Bolton.
Okay.
So former Monarchs and two-time Olympic gold medalist.
Yep. It's
she played pro ball overseas in Italy. So.
That's amazing. Amazing. You've also worked with a couple of other Sacramento Kings in Northern California over the years?
Yeah, Harold Presley, those guys with Sal Thompson. I played with them, and I worked with them also.
Okay, sounds good. So, I want to ask you a question. I know you're big into NBA basketball. You know some of the sports agents and some of the guys that they represented. If you saw the last NBA championship with the Milwaukee Bucks knocking off the Phoenix Suns, and they won 4 in a row to beat them in 6 games, but they were down 0 games to 2. Give me your thoughts on Giannis and how great he is, as well as were you surprised that Milwaukee actually won the championship? Everyone was looking at Brooklyn and Los Angeles Lakers.
That kid has skills.
Amazing.
He has, man. I've seen a lot of players, coming up and growing up, and in my lifetime, and he's rare. He's one of those rare players. He's definitely a future Hall of Famer. There's no question about that at all.
Lawrence, I'm going to ask you a thought. Everybody talks about professional athletes, and I remember when the Sacramento Kings came from Kansas City back in, I think, Kansas City, Missouri, I want to say 84, 85, and they built that first Arco Arena, if you recall, it held about 11 people, right? And then they built the second one that held about 17,000 people. And then they built this beautiful Golden One Center. That holds like 18,000 people. It might be one of the best arenas in NBA basketball. Give me your thoughts on how basketball and the people that have evolved with that change and that growth in the Northern California.
Yeah, I saw things changing, you know, especially when they got here. When they got here, everybody was, man, everybody was stoked. They were overwhelmed. They said, yeah, we got a pro team here. Yep. And everybody was playing. And then, you know, it just started getting more and more popular. You know, they had open pro summer league, you know, that they involved, you know, just the regular community to give people a shot or a chance to even become a basketball player or pro basketball player, you know. So that was real interesting.
Yeah, it used to be just people would go down to support Golden State when they were in Oakland, but now they've moved back to San Francisco where they're normally from. So, number one, Lawrence, I want to thank you for just coming on and talking about some of the people, you know, the sports industry with Mr. Hill and what he's doing. Do you know any of the athletes that he's representing right now, your old friend, your thoughts?
No, not well. Yeah, he did. He had a couple other players. They just finished up, and they were from overseas. Mm-hmm. And they're pretty much retired. So he's working on some new athletes, right? And working on some new projects with some upcoming athletes.
That sounds good.
Better, that have opportunity to go pro.
That's awesome. As we close out, I know you're doing something that I really respect you for, is near and dear to the hearts of a lot of people, not athlete related. But talk about the foundation you're doing in about 30 seconds and how you're trying to help raise some money for a kid that faced a little bit of an issue, Big C. I need your thoughts.
Yeah, well, actually, he was a student athlete. He ran track and field for the school that he was at.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, I mean, wrong place, wrong time. He was on skates with his brother, and they were at a big event on Memorial Day, and unfortunately, he was wrong place, wrong time, and now, he's paralyzed from the neck down, and it's we ran a fundraiser on Memorial Day, and we want to continue. It's ongoing because he needs 24-hour care.
Yeah.
You know, his name is Marcellus James Caldwell.
Wow.
The foundation is called Marcellus James Caldwell Foundation.org. That's the website. You can go to there, and if they want to donate, they're more than happy to.
Well, Lawrence, I tell you, man, it's been a while. And just reaching out to you, I'm really proud of what you've been doing over the years. You've seen all the growth in Northern California with basketball players and sports athletes, and now you're even lending out a helping hand to help somebody in need. I really want to appreciate you coming on the Big C Sports Podcast. Tell all your friends about us, and that we're on every Monday through Friday at about 6 p.m. on iHeartRadio, Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, a lot of applications. So I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope I'll see you down the road as we talk about who's going to be next year's NBA champion, okay? Is that fair enough to you?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Definitely. I appreciate you having me.
All right, Lawrence, have a blessed day, and we'll see you down the road.
Okay, you too.
That was Lawrence Thompson out of Northern California, focuses on a lot of helping of athletes and entertainers and also young people who are going through challenges. And so I really appreciate him with the Marcus James Caldwell Foundation.org. Take a look at that if you can help him. This is Big C Sports. We'll take the Big C pause or the Big C pause 2. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the maybe Big C mini timeout. It's all fair in Love and War. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of TVs all over the universe. Also, you can follow us on iHeartRadio Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports, doing things a little bit different coming on to the kickoff of the 2021 NFL football season. We're talking to Zariah Matthews. She's a special guest out of Northern California, and she does a lot in the entertainment industry. We work with athletes and entertainers, but I wanted to bring her on because she's working on some projects, and I wanted to ask her more about what she's doing. Zariah, how's things going for you today?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I am doing fantastic. And Zariah doesn't know, but she's going to cast me in her next movie. She just found that out right now, but it's all fair level work. Go ahead and tell the audience on Big C Sport what you do and then how long you've been doing it. Go right ahead.
Yes. So I'm known revered as Zariah Cam. I'm an actress, a casting director, a youth mentor. I was the lead actress of Darkest Hour, a Northern California film by Enoch Jones. Following that, I did Fight for Your Life. And I worked with Disney star Adrian Armonte.
Okay.
And Unbelievers.
Can you get me some free tickets to Disney? You said you're going to get me free tickets to Disney? Is that what you said?
I can. We can do that. We can work on that.
Well, have Mickey Mouse hook up Big C Sports because I want to get on those roller coasters again and see if I can have a good time down there. So while you're doing this,
yes, sir.
Tell people in Northern California and really all over the world how they can get into being what you promote for. As a director, you're always looking for talent. Sometimes people don't know how to get their foot in the door. What advice would you give someone trying to get their foot in the door with you?
Yes, I would definitely reach out to me directly. If you want to be a part of our project called A Piece of My Love, reach out to us via email, POMLcasting@gmail.com. Whether you're a model, an actress, or a musician, or if you want to do film crew work behind the scenes.
Really?
We can help put your foot in the door and give you credit as well.
Now, do they have to be a part of Screen Actors Guild to get into what you're doing?
They do not.
Okay, because I know I was in a movie and they only had me as an extra. They would not give me a speaking scene because I was not part of the Screen Actors Guild. I know a lot of actors and entertainers. So tell us about how you got actually introduced into that business. There's a lot of people who want to know how, but you've already been there. You're working with Disney. So how did you get it from starting to where you are now?
I have to say, I relied on manifestation, prayer, and alignment.
Wow.
I wrote down what I wanted out of my life. I believed in it heavily, and somehow, some way, people ran into me and shook my hand and offered me an opportunity. Every film that I have been casted for as a lead actor was presented to me. As far as auditioning goes, I do have tips on how actors can best present themselves when they're in, amongst casting directors.
Wow.
As I coach and mentor actors as well. But definitely, I would say believe in yourself. Decide what you want and believe it. Write it down, make it plain, and it will happen.
One of my business partners was talking about manifestation. That's how Big C Sports came into existence. We manifested. It's not like someone put out an ad and said, we're looking for a new sports show. We did it our own, starting with experience over the years. So I really do appreciate that. There's a lot of things that go in and out, as you know, in acting and entertainment. So I know that you're into the acting. Can you tell us if you're looking for a certain genre? Is it a certain male, female? Is there an age demographic that people might want to consider when they reach out to you?
When they do reach to me, we're actually casting for all ages. So we have permits for adolescents as well, our youth. Certain scenes for pool party scenes with liquor, obviously we want 21 and up.
Yep.
But I am willing to work with everybody. So I work with films continually. Reach out to me, and if you're not on this project, I can get you on the next one.
Okay, so you just heard from Zariah Matthews. She's just guaranteed she's gonna put Big C Sports in her next movie. And if I'm a lead actor, I'm kind of shy, so I might need to see where they don't speak. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. That is fine.
Well, Zariah,
trailer and everything.
That's funny. But Zariah really, you know what? Move over, LeBron James in Space Jam. Is that what you're saying, Zariah? Well, I tell you what,
sir.
It's all fair and level war. I really appreciate reaching out to you. As we close, and I thank you for being on the Big C Sports Podcast, I want to just have you just leave an imprint, whether you have a website or is there any phone number. I know you left your email earlier. If you want to do that again, if someone's trying to reach out to you right after this show post, then how can they reach out to you and find out how to contact you?
Yeah. So if you want to reach out, if you want to submit for this film and see what this film's about, you want to reach out to POMLcasting@gmail.com. If you want to reach my manager directly, my management account, that is Zariah Cam, IMGT@gmail.com. Zariah is spelled just like Mariah, but with a Z.
Yep.
And if you want to reach out to me by other means, you can check me out on Instagram at IamZariahCam.
That is amazing.
And I will follow you back.
That is amazing. And let all your friends know, follow Big C Sports, and they will hear you live before our movie tops the #1 grossing movie in the universe, featuring Big C Sports and then also Zariah Matthews. Zariah, I really appreciate you. We'll have you on again in the future as your movies are closer to launching. And I really want to thank you for following Big C Sports, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you.
Wonderful. You have a blessed day. That was the great Zariah Matthews, one of the best casting directors in all of California and maybe all around the world. Reach out to her when you get a chance. You heard her on Big C Sports. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, and when we come back, we're going to talk about more sports that's going on. In fact, a lot of changes are going in the world of sports. We'll take the Big C pause, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, of the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. I want to also give another special thanks to Lawrence Thompson as he works with marketing for professional athletes NBA players and also sports agents. Also, Zariah Matthews, casting director, also worked with Disney, a featured movie called Piece of My Love that's going to be featuring, Charlton of Big C Sports. It's actually going to put me in a love scene with Minnie Mouse. I don't want to be love scene with Mickey Mouse. I want to be Minnie Mouse. It's all fair in love and war, but we will do the best we can in being a part of that promotion with Disney, one of the best entertainment companies in the universe. Also, proud listeners of Big C Sports Podcast. Maybe we could ask Mickey Mouse to throw about $100 million into the Big C Sports Podcast. It'd be a great thing. Jeff Bezos, you got nothing on Walt Disney, as they're also proud listeners of Big C Sports. I was just saying that the whole world is changing. A lot of things are changing in the world of sports. We have college football teams talking about changing conferences, whether it's Texas or whether it's Oklahoma. They're talking about going to the SEC. I think they do better in the Pac-12. That's just my opinion. But, they're going to do what they want to do, and I look forward to that. But I wonder also how people look at the facts that you're asking athletes to go and give you their heart, mind, body, and soul, and to being what they want to be. And no one can tell someone how to dream. Whatever dream you have, go out and make sure it happens. As you just heard today, talking about that with Zariah, and she said, the great Zariah Matthews with Disney, works with Disney Corporation, one of the most well-known corporations in the universe. And she talked about how she manifested that opportunity. She manifested it, she wrote it down, and she made some things come to pass. And I just want people to understand that I've been talking about manifesting with a business partner of mine that I do business with, and that's part of how Big C Sports came to pass. It was about manifesting it and not worrying about, who's going to be in your team. Some people get on your team, some people get off your team. But to the world of college football, and again, I thank Disney, and I'm serious when I say Disney should be proud sponsors of Big C Sports Podcast as we are growing leaps and bounds. And there's a new awakening, as God said, let there be light with Big C Sports. Really appreciate that, Disney. But to the world of college football, and everybody loves college football, especially in Texas and places like Oklahoma. But you have Texas and Oklahoma. They're talking about that move to the SEC, the Southeastern Conference. Last I checked, Oklahoma and Texas are part of the Midwest part of the United States. And the Big 12 is trying to kickstart realignment. So if college football expansion and name, image, and likeness rights is going to be a problem for some people, I know everybody has their own opinion about that. But when you think about it, we're not enough teams to really shake it up to the point that is going to make a big difference. If Oklahoma and if Texas move into the SEC, and it looks like they got the green light, you've got the green light, they got the green light for that. Are they going to knock off Alabama? No. Are they going to knock off Georgia? Maybe. Are they going to knock off LSU? Probably not. Are they going to knock off Florida? Probably not. So maybe Oklahoma would be right behind the Alabamas of the world, the Georgias of the world. Oklahoma got blitzed by Alabama. They also got blitzed by Georgia down in the Rose Bowl. And so they're not going to beat them. When they played Florida in the national championship game, Tim Tebow was quarterback. They lost to that Florida program. And so I'm thinking just maybe, I don't know their record with LSU, but I don't think LSU won the national championship 2 years ago. So those four programs, you take the Big 12 marquee teams, Oklahoma and Texas, and they're 1-2. Of course, every now and then you may get an Iowa State that creeps up. You may get someone like in Oklahoma State. But they carried the mantle for the Big 12. Number 1 and number 2, Oklahoma and Texas. You put them in the SEC, they're going to be right behind Alabama, right behind Georgia, right behind Florida, right behind LSU. So that's like having ownership in something and getting rid of it to go rent. That doesn't make any sense. But they're doing it for the money. But if you're doing it for the money, that's great. Why not build what you already have? They're going to become no better than the 4th or 5th best programs in the SEC. That's just my opinion. And people think they're going to go in there and compete. Well, Arkansas, the Razorbacks, before they left their old, Southwest Conference, Big 12, and they joined the SEC along with Missouri. And then Texas A&M also left, and they joined the SEC. What's happened to Arkansas since they've been part of the SEC? They've won one championship. One. And that's only in their division. Missouri, I think, won twice in their division. But that's it. Texas A&M, they haven't won any. They won nothing. So what did Texas A&M benefit by leaving out of the Big 12 or Big 8, what they were at that time, and joining the SEC? I think if Oklahoma and Texas realize, yeah, they're going to maybe get some more money, but they're going to lose that name of their program being dominant programs. And I'm just saying, maybe they won't, but if you follow what A&M did, they haven't become an SEC power. If you look at what Arkansas has done, they have not become an SEC power. And if you look at Missouri, they have not become an SEC power. So with Texas and Oklahoma, they intend to announce a decision to leave the Big 12 in favor of a move to the SEC within the next 24 to 48 hours. Okay? That's some sources that are being reported by CBS Sports. And when you think about it, the high-ranking college officials with knowledge of the situation, out of the Houston Chronicle's Brett Zimmerman, was the first to report on Wednesday that the SEC could announce the additions of the Texas Longhorns and also the Oklahoma Sooners within a couple of weeks. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, along with officials from Texas and Oklahoma, have all refused to comment on the initial reports, but we know it's probably going to happen. Wherever there's smoke, there's fire. And I think I wish those programs nothing but the best. But you got this good old boy network down in the SEC, and they're not too kind of letting them outsiders in. So you may go there, you may spend some of their revenue, but you're going to lose that marqueeism that you have when you think Big 12, even going back to, say, 20 years ago, when you thought about the Big 8 where they all came from, you thought Oklahoma and Nebraska. What did Nebraska do? They went to the Big 10. Nebraska was a team under Tom Osborne that won national championships. They got tired because somebody made them upset, and instead of working it out, they quit, and they jumped to another conference. Now they're hardly even a team on television because they had a name for themselves, and now you hardly even know when they're playing a game. They're at the abyss, usually, of the Big Ten Conference. There's a lot of good old boy network that goes on, and they're not trying to share the wealth, if that makes sense to you. But I wish them nothing but the best. Colorado, what do? Colorado won a national championship in the early 90s. I think they were 90 or 91 when they won a national championship, I think with Eric Bieniemy. They beat Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl and were crowned national champions. They were a marquee program in the Big 8. They've moved to the Pac-12. Where are they now? They never won the Pac-12. They won a national championship in the Big 8 because they were a marquee destination. Just like Big C Sports is a destination for Disney. For anyone that says, well, what is Big C Sports? Well, look at Disney Corporation, and they were just on the Big C Sports podcast. You can't get much bigger in the universe, in the world of entertainment, than Disney. And just had them on the Big C Sports podcast. But at the same time, sometimes people think they do better when they leave what they own to go rent someplace. And that's crazy, but people do it all the time. So whether these programs leave now or in the future, the SEC specifically, the departure for the Big 12 appears, it's inevitable. They're going to go. Oklahoma State president chimes in, and he wants to keep the discussion, make it open for Oklahoma State fans not to panic, because you got Oklahoma State, you got Iowa State, Kansas State. Outside of that, who are marquee names? Texas Tech's not a marquee name for college football. Maybe in their conference it is. But there's going to be some change and some shakeup in the world of college sports. But maybe they have not learned from what happened when Texas A&M left. They've been a bottom dweller. They just had a good season last year, and they're trying to build up with Jimbo Fisher. But they're not knocking off Alabama anytime soon. They did it one time with the great Johnny Manziel, and that was an upset. It wasn't something they do all the time. Also, Auburn. Well, Oklahoma and Texas even compete with Auburn, which is not on the same par as Alabama, but sometimes they've knocked off Alabama too. So when you go from Oklahoma and Texas being the marquee program in the Big 12 Conference, now you got Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Auburn as national championship teams over the past 20 years, where do you fit in? I mean, you got to ask that question as you think you're going to leave for greener pastures. There was talk also over the years that Texas and Oklahoma would join the Pac-12 with USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington and those schools, Arizona State and Cal and Stanford. It's all fair and level war. But just like Zariah Matthews, casting director, in a full feature movie called Piece of My Love, and she does work for Disney Corporation, one of the biggest entertainment companies in the universe, just appeared on Big C Sports. Because I own it. I can make a call to someone at Disney, and they show up on the program. Just talking to Lawrence Thompson. Works with a lot of the top athletes in the NBA. Why did he come on Big C Sports? Because I own it. There's something about ownership. And to get Disney and also other people who are very high up with athletes and entertainers, I really appreciate that. But whatever they do, in the world of college football, it's going to make some changes. I mean, change is good, and sometimes you need it. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When I come back, I'm going to talk more about what Peter Brady sang back in the day. It's time for change. It's time for change. Got to rearrange. We'll take the Big C pause in the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. All right, we are back with the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. I want to say thank you to Disney for being on Big C Sports Podcast. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3. God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown. Also want to say thank you to Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol and 100% on your game. It's all fair and love and war. It goes great with the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. It's all fair and love and war. So back to the world of college football, where sometimes people think they're going to make a change. It's time to change. It's time to rearrange. Make that change. The great Michael Jackson talked about it. Make that change. Okay, I don't sing it like he did, but you got to look at the man in the mirror. The great John Wynn has a TV series. It's a movie called, Mirror Mirror, and I was watching it, and it's phenomenal. And I really appreciate what was on with the movie Mirror Mirror. I'm still watching more of that. The great John Wynn, owner of the Wynn Network. You know why he sent it to me? Because he owns it. Made a phone call. He owns it. It's a great movie. It's all fair and love and war. But just like I own Big C Sports, I've always tried to create opportunities for people. But sometimes people don't like ownership. They rather go rent, and that's okay. But college football, when you're Oklahoma and Texas, why are you going to go rent a room in the SEC when you own the house in the Big 12? That doesn't make any sense because they're jaded by the money. Just like Arkansas was jaded when they left, and also Missouri was jaded when they left, and Texas A&M, they were jaded when they left. But they're chasing money. They're going to go from the penthouse to the outhouse in the SEC. They're not going to get their favorite calls from the officials. But back to the world of kickoff. In September, games are most exciting. And again, there's a lot of change right now. Like Michael Jackson said, make that change. And you think about Clemson and Georgia, it's the perfect September football game. When you think about it, the crowds are crazy. Touchdown! When you hear touchdown, you're going to hear a lot of that when Clemson plays Georgia. But it's a perfect football game in September. It's an established title contender in Clemson versus the trendy pick for 2021 in Georgia. It's a matchup of big-arm quarterbacks from Southern California, and it's two teams that have recruited at the highest level in 4 years. JT Daniels played at Mater Dei in Southern California, and DJ Uiagalelei played at St. John Bosco, Southern California. They all come from the Trinity League. And they were looking at Daniels went to USC, and then he transferred out to the SEC, and then DJ Uiagalelei, I think he got a lot of paperbacks too, and he decided that he would take the paperback test, and he passed it, and so he ended up at Clemson with the great Dabo Swinney. But when you think about this matchup, rather than a spectacular matchup, it's actually one that has history on its side too, with Georgia and Clemson playing 64 times in the past, with the last matchup in 2014, including Deshaun Watson. When you think about that, he had a great awe-inspiring performance and his first touchdown throw, and an absolutely huge performance. And the Bulldogs superstar Todd Gurley played in the NFL, both of these guys, and he did his thing on the ground. It's a good opening game in Oklahoma and Texas. You think you're going to be improving your lot in life, going from the penthouse to the outhouse, but I don't know. There's another great college football game on the horizon, especially for you West Coast boys. We know West Coast plays the best football. We know the Pac-12 has more overall championships than any conference in the NCAA. We know that by over 200. I think the Big Ten is second to the Pac-12 when it comes to overall, but a lot of people are just football-centric. But when you think about other than Clemson and Georgia, I'm really excited to see the Oregon Ducks and the Ohio State Buckeyes. They're going to meet at a packed house on week 2 with the cancellation of last year's game in Eugene, Oregon. That helped Ohio State stay undefeated in the regular season. But it's a bummer because people were looking forward to it. But defending Pac-12, 2-time Pac-12 champion and Big Ten 4-time champions, are going to finally share the field in Columbus, Ohio. They normally play their games in the Rose Bowl, but now they're moving it to a kickoff in the regular season. And that might have more attention on that game, at least for West Coast fans, than any other game outside of the USC Notre Dame game. But when you think about it, you have so many people riding on high on what's going to happen in this game. These last times these two teams met, I believe they played for the national championship, and Ohio State got the better of Oregon at that. But they're going to have it's a mammoth, a monumental matchup with the Pac-12 champion and the Big Ten champion. Oregon's defense should be among the nation's best, as their end player Kayvon Thibodeau is amazing and will be chasing a new Ohio State quarterback, probably C.J. Stroud, and the Ducks secondary will be chasing Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, and possibly the nation's top receiving corps from Ohio State. The Pac-12 really needs this one, but so does Ohio State. Ryan Day still has not lost a regular season game since becoming the Buckeyes coach. Everybody keep that in mind when Oklahoma and Texas think they're going to improve their lot, because they go from the, I guess you call it the mansions of Texas and Oklahoma, to the outhouses of the Southern Eastern Conference. It's all fair in love and war. Another marquee game. How can you go wrong with Notre Dame? You have Notre Dame versus Florida State. And again, sentiments out to the Bowden family. Last I heard, there were some things going on. Don't really know much about that. Don't want to get too personal about it, but thoughts and prayers are with the Bowden family. It's all fair in love and war. But Notre Dame and Florida State, one of the better games I ever saw was at Notre Dame. It was Charlie Ward at quarterback, went on to play baseball, and the great Lou Holtz coaching Notre Dame, and Bobby Bowden. Of course, I thought, Notre Dame won that game on the scoreboard, but I thought Florida State won that game on the field. But sometimes shenanigans happen when you go into a place where you're not supposed to win. But that's a Sunday game in prime time on ABC Sports. It is two teams at very different stages of their different goals. ABC is owned by Disney. That was just on the Big C Sports podcast. You can't get much bigger in the universe of entertainment than Disney. And they were just on the Big C Sports podcast with Ryan Matthews, all fair in love and war. But Notre Dame, college football's marquee name, and people keep saying, well, Notre Dame needs to join the conference. Notre Dame doesn't have to split their TV revenue with anybody. Notre Dame has marquee representation. If Notre Dame were to go down and join the SEC, maybe that's never going to happen. But if they're chasing money, why not just go to the SEC if you're chasing money? People say, well, join the ACC. They do ACC in college football already. In basketball, they did it last year. Now they're going back to the independent. I think the perfect place, if they were to expand, just go to the Big Ten. You're already there in South Bend, Indiana. Your game rival with Purdue and Indiana Hoosiers is just perfect for the making, because TV money is going to follow Notre Dame, but when you join those conferences, you have to split your money with the conferences that don't have their own TV network. NBC Sports covers Notre Dame football, and now they're thinking about maybe doing what Oklahoma and Texas were doing. And that's all fair and love and war. People do what they want to do. There's a big game that maybe is happening about 20 years too late. I mean, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, they're not on the Miami Hurricanes football team anymore. But De'Aaron King is, and then Bryce Young out of Santa Ana Mater Dei for Alabama will be the focus of much intrigue in how far they can take Miami and Alabama this season. Will Miami take a step in this season in becoming the Miami of old, where they used to play down in the Orange Bowl and they won 57 games in a row until they were knocked off by the Washington Huskies? I remember that. Napoleon Kaufman went down there and did his thing, and they knocked them off. That's a Pac-12 power knocking off Miami and Independent at the time, but they were the status of Alabama, snapped their 57-game home win streak at the Orange Bowl, and that happened with a Pac-12 team doing it. So whether it's Alabama, will they still be Alabama right out of the gate? Will we get to see how both teams will look September 4th? The honorable halftime mention. I'm also excited to see what kind of shenanigans the Rice Marching Owls band unleashes in his first visit to Texas in 10 years since September 18th. And then spell out the SEC on Texas Phil on his last visit in 2011. With A&M departing, the Big 12. It's all fair and love and war. Some more big marquee names for the northeast part of the country. You have Penn State, and they're going to play Wisconsin. That's always there's a physical run-first mentality, but Wisconsin has a great quarterback. That good a boy, fake the run and throw the ball downfield, and they're going to beat a lot of people with Wisconsin this year. The Nittany Lions and the Badgers, looking forward to that. And who's going to win that game? It's all fair and love and war, especially in that part of the country, the Northeast. But can Penn State rebuild the defensive line and hold up against Wisconsin's, the big, beefy linemen? We will see. I think they're still away from the weight room too much to compete with that team. Also when you think about other marquee games going on around the country, it's one thing to talk about USC, UCLA, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Auburn, Cal, Stanford, Arizona State, whatever it is. But I think about all these great football teams, these great football franchises, as these colleges realign. What's going to happen to what's going to happen to the Oklahoma States of the world? What's going to happen to the Texas Techs? What's going to happen to Kansas? What's going to happen to Oregon State? What's going to happen to Washington State? There's a lot of programs that are on the fringe, and they'll just join the bigger conference, and they'll just kind of be bottom feeders, but they'll go in there and hopefully split some of that TV revenue. I think it's all fair in love and war. What I really like is what USC, the defense made notable strides in 2020 on their first-year coach coordinator, Tyler Orlando. I think it's going to be amazing at Southern California. They should have a strong season this year. They had a scheme that yielded 16 takeaways in only 6 games, but the Trojans are still seeking their first college football appearance, and to do so, they got to continue to improve on defense. I'm telling you, there's so much going on in the Pac-12. UMC has an impact pass rusher that's going to help from day one, as well as a lot of other people. His name is Corey Foreman, and he's one of the top 3 in the country when it comes to the rankings of high school players coming into college football. I really feel that is a good thing. Change is always good if you don't run from change. It's time to change and make that change. Michael Jackson sang about it. Don't be afraid to make that change. Whatever you got to do in change, the change is always for the better if you handle it. So I wish all the college football teams around the country their very best when it comes to making that change. And don't be afraid of it. Just like the NFL is full of change, you got to be ready to accept the change, because if you don't accept the change, it's going to happen with or without you. There are people that are afraid that the sun is going to maybe not shine someday, but it always shines. But you got to wake up and rise and shine with it. So as college football is doing its thing to go get the money grab, they're going to do whatever they can to make it happen, and they will, because money talks and blankety blank walks. It's all fair, level war. Also, Big C Sports will be getting free admission into Disneyland, according to our Disney representative that just appeared live of the Big C Sports Show, and I really appreciate that. I've always wanted to take a picture with Mickey Mouse, and actually one of those pictures where I'm not waiting in the crowd with everybody else to get my picture with Mickey Mouse. So I'll look forward to that happening, and hopefully Zariah Matthews can make that happen for a Big C Sports podcast, all fair and love and war. I want to talk about a little bit today's Major League Baseball schedule. There's a lot of good games going on, especially what happened, with the Dodgers last night down at Chavez Ravine. Them good old boys, the San Francisco Giants, they went in and took care of business against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not many people thought they would, but they've been beating them like a drum. Like not 1, not 2, but 3 times, and maybe they'll beat them again tonight, the next time they line up, because these two teams are definitely going to challenge for supremacy when it comes to Major League Baseball and the National League West. I know they have everything lined up for them to have a great run at the World Series. I'm hoping the San Francisco Giants can be part of the National League champions so I can get more media passes to the World Series. And I'll get in with Big C Sports. It'd be nice to also get in with Disney Corporation, as Big C Sports and Disney Corporation will attend the 2021 World Series. Is all fair in love and war. Looking forward to making that happen. Everybody has this thought, and maybe it's not a good thought, but some people say baseball has too many games, and they need to shorten the season. They need to make some kind of change. I say don't make a change. Keep things the way they are and try to improve on the change. That's what I've always looked at. As my mom always taught me, you rise and shine. But instead of making so many changes in baseball, moving the mound back or trying to expand the size of the second base, maybe just focus on making the game better. That's what I want to see, if you're making the game better, by maybe not having so many replays, maybe not having so many challenges. If someone feels that in Major League Baseball, if a person is out at first, and people want to say, throw it out at first, home run, strikeout, whatever it is, try to make that game better. Major League Baseball has a lot riding on the consistency, and I hope that, in just my opinion, they can focus on making the game better and not keep changing so many things, but sometimes change is good, and I know they're going to do the best they can to keep the Major League Baseball crowd excited. The Philadelphia Phillies have a game where they're taking on the Braves, but as we always go, the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friend, The girls love the long ball, and men love hitting it deep. It's all fair in Level War Major League Baseball scheduled today on a beautiful July the 23rd, 2021. The Atlanta Braves, they are at the Philadelphia Phillies. The Arizona Diamondbacks at the Chicago Cubs. The Washington Nationals at the Baltimore Orioles. You have the San Diego Padres at the Miami Marlins. The Toronto Blue Jays at Buffalo now taking on the New York Nets. The New York Yankees at the Boston Red Sox. The Cardinals out of St. Louis at the Cincinnati Reds. And the Tampa Bay Rays at the Cleveland Indians, who've changed their name. I think the Cleveland Guardians, that's going to go into effect next year, I believe. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim at the Minnesota Twins. The Texas Rangers at the Houston Astros. The Chicago White Sox, they're taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. If they can find a place that's not full of some type of stain, beer stain spilled on the ground from the Milwaukee Brewers, the Milwaukee Bucks winning the NCAA championship is all fair in Level War. The Detroit Tigers at the Kansas City Royals. Pittsburgh Pirates at the San Francisco Giants. Northern California's finest, the Colorado Rockies at the defending world champion LA Dodgers. And the Oakland A's at the Seattle Mariners is all fair in Level War. I just want people to keep in mind, no matter what you do in life, you got to be willing to embrace change. And when you embrace change embrace it for the best. I want to just tell people, when you're asking about Big C Sports, and we often say the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south, a lot of people take a vacation at Disneyland. And Zariah C. Matthews is a casting director and features full movies. Think about that. There's another one she's working on called Piece of My Love. And, Big C Sports, Charlton has some type of a role in that, even if it's a non-speaking role. But I want all the sponsors around the world, when we're asking you for that $100 million, I'm still manifesting $6 billion, but the $100 million I've talked about that some podcasters have gotten, they don't have Disney on their podcast. Big C Sports does. If Disney can be on the Big C Sports podcast, so can you. That's why that $100 million is there. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Just leave a message for Charlton with Big C Sports. And that's why I thank Zariah Matthews, a casting director with the #1 entertainment company in the universe, Disney, on Big C Sports. And I'm proud of that. It's called manifestation. Don't worry about who's on your team. You just keep going for it. If God is for you, nobody can be against you. My doors are always open, and I'll always leave the light on for you. Anyone that I can help in life to help make some of their dreams come true. It's all fair in Level War. So the Cleveland Indians are going to change their name to the Cleveland Guardians. That's a good thing. Look forward to that. And I'm telling everybody, there's something that comes with Big C Sports being black-owned. You can find us on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and we just had Disney Entertainment on our program today. There's a Black Sports Network coming also. Big C Sports may be a part of that. There's a lot of things I'm working on also with the NFL Network with Big C Sports. There's a lot of good things coming because I don't sleep. I work and I sleep at the same time. I even work in my sleep because I'm driven for it. And you just heard that comment from Disney. So Black Sports Network hijack sports. It's not hijacking it, really just been a part of it. And when you think about within 72 hours of the announcement on TBSN, the Black Sports Network selected a design partner to handle the branding. And there's more coming, so I won't get too much in it. But, ESPN laid off 400 people. But Big C Sports just had Disney that owns ESPN on our show on Big C Sports Podcast. You don't have to be in somebody's back seat. You can have your hands on the wheel, but you got to put God first. ESPN laid off 400 people. But Big C Sports just had someone who owns ESPN on the Big C Sports Network. That's God's favor. You can Google it. All life came from Africa. Every single one. Dr. Leakey Gregory Mendo. So with ESPN laying off 400 people, I feel they have a better sense of job security because also the new athletes and a chance you can show that black athletes that have never been shown in the way. Like, we're not freaks. I don't allow people to talk about being freaks on our show. I just want to tell people you can follow Big C Sports and you realize it. The first black-owned sports and women-led network, TBSN, the Black Sports Network, will be entering a $620 billion global sports industry. That's part of Big C Sports. I want to say that one more time. I'm telling you, manifesting $6 billion. It's part of a $620 billion global sports industry. Big C Sports is part of that $620 billion You can Google it. Disney was just on Big C Sports for a reason. Always go forward, never pause. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young man, rumble. With all you got to use, how can you lose? As my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, this is Charlton with Big C Sports. We thank Disney for being on, also Lawrence Thompson. We thank you. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.